This is VidHead85 Entertains, and this is our little bit of learning for the month. Um, we are going to take a look at the friendship of LGBTQ plus queer icons, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. This is from Biography, and it says inside Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera's friendship. And its subtitle is The Two Revolutionary LGBTQ plus activists develop a friendship while fighting for transgender rights in the 1960s and 70s. We do surely stand on the shoulders of giants, and these two women are definitely two of them. Long uncredited, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera were the vanguard of the modern transgender movement, fighting for the right to gender self identity when social and criminal prosecution of gay people was still common in the state of New York in the 1950s and 60s. Bars were banned from selling alcoholic beverages to homosexuals, and the act of cross dressing could result in being charged with sexual deviancy. David France, director and producer of the documentary The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson, told the Los Angeles Blade that Johnson and Rivera helped start today's conversation about gender nonconformity and civil rights, and were the first people who conceptualized the idea that trans community was a distinct community with its own goals and needs. France believes Johnson and Rivera were genuine revolutionaries. The fifth of seven children in a religious working class family, Johnson was born in Elizabeth, New Jersey in 1945. Johnson said she began wearing dresses around age 5 but stopped due to pressure from other children. After graduating high school in 1963, Johnson moved to New York City with only a bag of clothes and $15. Often homeless, she engaged in sex work and performed as a drag artist to survive. First going by the name Black Marcia, she eventually settled on Marsha P. Johnson, the P standing for Pay It No Mind, the response given when she was questioned about her gender. Rivera was born in New York City in 1951. Her mother died by suicide when Rivera was 3, and she was subsequently raised by her Venezuelan grandmother. She began experimenting with clothing and makeup at a young age, which resulted in verbal and physical abuse at home and at school. Rivera left home at age 11 and was soon hustling around 42nd Street. Johnson met Rivera in 1963. The pair formed a close bond as outsiders not only to the social norms of their time, but with the burgeoning gay community itself. Johnson self identified drag queen, the term transgender was not commonly used in Johnson's lifetime, had by then become a prominent figure in the downtown LGBTQ plus community, revered for her unique, ethereal, often scavenged attire for her role as gracious, caring drag mother, helping struggling and homeless youth. I was no one, nobody from Nowheresville. Until I became a drag queen, Johnson said in a 1992 interview. That's what made me in New York. That's what made me in New Jersey. That's what made me in the world. Rivera's fiery demeanor and simpler look contrasted Johnson's, but the two were fixtures of the Christopher Street gay community and were prominent figures in the Stonewall Inn riots of 1969, when neighborhood residents and patrons of the bar fought back against a police raid. The public uprising served as a catalyst for the gay rights movement, with Johnson and Rivera on the front lines. A year later, the first gay pride parade was held in New York, and Johnson joined in Rivera in founding STAR, Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which advocated for the rights of young transgender people and offered meals and sanctuary to homeless youth. At the time, Johnson said her goal was to see gay people liberated and free to have equal rights that other people have in America. Imagine that, wanting to have the same rights as everyone else. Shocker, isn't it? As part of the Gay Activists Alliance, Rivera worked to pass a gay rights bill in New York City, even being arrested when she climbed the walls of City Hall in a dress and heels. But within a few years, the GAA had dropped transgender concerns from its agenda in favor of more outward assimilation. When things started to get more mainstream, it was like, we don't need you anymore, Rivera told Village Voice of how transgender people had become a subculture within a subculture. Galvanized to fight even harder, Rivera warned, "Hell hath no fury like a drag queen scorned." A visible presence at gay liberation marches and political action protests, Johnson, Rivera, and the growing trans community were banned from participating in the 1973 Gay Pride Parade by the Gay and Lesbian Organizing Committee, reportedly due to the notion that the drag queens did not shine a favorable light on the movement. In defiance, Johnson and Rivera marched ahead of the parade. Yeah! Wow. You know what? I don't care what anybody says here. There is no amount of fitting in, no amount of anything that will make those homo haters like us even more. If somebody's not going to like you, they're not going to like you regardless of how you present. So I'm just going to put that right in there. Their relationship faded when Rivera moved to Tarrytown, New York in the mid 1970s, and Johnson remained in New York City, where she continued to be a fixture of the gay activist community. Though she suffered mental breakdowns, arrests, and continued homelessness, Johnson joined street activist groups such as ACT UP in the 1980s to raise awareness of the growing AIDS epidemic. During a 1992 interview, Johnson revealed that she had been HIV positive for 2 years. "They call me a legend in my own time because there were so many queens gone, and I'm one of the few queens left from the 70s and 80s. That same year, Johnson's body was discovered floating in the Hudson River near the Christopher Street piers. Originally classified as a suicide, Johnson's cause of death was changed from drowning to undetermined causes. Though authorities re examined the case in 2012, it remains open. Returning to New York City soon after her friend's death, Rivera took up residence on the Christopher Street piers and continued her advocacy for homeless members of the gay community. In 1997, Rivera founded Transy House in Park Slope, Brooklyn to honor Johnson's memory, and in 2001, Rivera resurrected STAR as an active political organization with the word transvestite in the title being changed to the more recently coined transgender. Still angered by what she saw as the minimalization of drag queens and transgender people by mainstream assimilationist gay rights agenda, Rivera and Starr fought for the New York Transgender Rights Bill. Rivera died in 2002 due to complications related to liver cancer. In 2015, Rivera became the first transgender activist to have her image appear on the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C., and the Sylvia Rivera Law Project continues her legacy to guarantee all people are free to self-determine their gender identity and expression, regardless of income or race, without facing harassment, discrimination, or violence. So I originally wanted to do one for each Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, but when I found this article on them, I needed to deal with them together, these two legendary transgender women of our community. I am going to say this very simply and as bluntly as possible. You do not have the LGB, you cannot bisexual erasure, nah, not flying here. Transgender erasure, not flying here. Every single bit of the LGBTQ or queer plus community is my community. If you don't like it, go somewhere else, because if you're going to be trans bashing in my comments, your butt gonna get deleted, and so will your comments. You will be blocked. Um, Standing on the shoulders of giants here. I am really happy to hear about this friendship, and there are so many people who have been lost to history, and I'm so happy to see Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson getting a lot of press, and this is part of it. So next week will be the first week of the next month, and I can't wait for you to see what movie madness is coming up. See you soon.